reassuring my mom's just like, you got kids because you drink Monster. My dad always has to have some kind of bad habit. Like,
Is that a do?
Yes, ma'am.
Do? What happened to the Verners?
I broke down. It wasn't working.
you lost weight though, right? Did you
Yeah.
put money on that?
That's what's happening.
Ah, Deb's gonna get it.
No, I haven't. I've lost 25, but since January.
I know, we're live, guys. Trying to pull up the agenda.
I've only got, I think, Josh beat me.
It was a rude awakening the other day.
All right, we'll call this meeting of the Public Works Committee to order at 9:52 a.m. We'll begin with the roll call.
Commissioner Nolden? Commissioner Winfrey?
Here.
Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here.
Commissioner Clemens?
Present.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker?
Present.
Commissioner Davis?
Present.
Commissioner Newman?
Here.
Commissioner Peppin?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our September 15th minute.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the committee at this time? Please state your name and your city of residence, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
My name is April DeLore, and I live in Grand Blanc, Michigan, Genesee County. I've been reading some backgrounds on people on the board, and here it's supposed to be we're working all together as a group of people. We see a lot of division lately among boards, people who can't work together, can't even have open dialogue with each other. It's really disappointing to see what has really happened in this county and this world and these state based on vaccine statuses, mask statuses, political statuses. It's every status imaginable. And our kids are learning this. Kids are learning this daily, and that's the world that they're growing up in. That's going to become their norm. That should concern everybody here. So when I see a bio that states, somebody on this board has made it their priority to build a brighter future for Genesee County, focused on bringing people of all backgrounds together and being a voice for every resident. Every single resident, not just the ones they choose to agree with, but every resident living in the district, which covers parts of the city of Flint. So when I hear that people are saying that they want to serve for every resident, that doesn't mean that we just serve because, oh, I agree with you, so I'm going to serve you, but I'm not going to serve you because I don't. I don't feel that we need to divide ourselves any further than where we already are. People should not be losing their jobs based on their status of their vaccine. I have had my first segregation this weekend. I've seen happen, and it happened in front of children, and children are learning this. It's the saddest thing that we are encountering right now, and it should be your main priority. Vaccine status should not matter for us to live in society and provide for our families. We've worked hard our whole lives. We should not be taken
Time
from
has
us.
expired.
And you need to control that.
State your name and your city of residence. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Carly Lamb, Clio. I'm going to read for you 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, and that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life.
Please state your name and city of residence. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Debbie Zofko, Vienna Township. To kind of piggyback off of what April said, people with HIV and hepatitis B, they're not banned from public. you know? So, you know, why nurses? You know, why are we doing this? Why are we allowing it to happen? Anyway, today's law assumes rights can be granted by the government. However, what the government gives, it can also take away. So under political law, we have no real rights and no real liberty, only permissions. That's from Whatever Happened to Justice by Richard J. Mayberry. You know, our Declaration of Independence states we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, our Creator. Our rights come from God. Our rights don't come from government entities. So we have certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. We have a republic. We don't have mob rule. Everybody likes to call it a democracy. It's a republic. Consent of the governed. You know, the governed doesn't consent to what you guys are doing. What, you know, all across, from top to bottom. You know, why can't we just be for freedom? Why? Why is that so wrong?
10 seconds.
Why are we taking people's rights away and their livelihoods away? Why don't you stand up for them? Thank you.
Is there any other member of the public wishing to address the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. Is there any communications? No, sir. There is no old business. That'll move us on to new business. Director of Administration, item 1, approval of a purchase order for Delta Tire.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move 1 through 6 because they're all purchase orders with motor pool. Support.
It's been moved and supported to move items 1 through 6. We'll begin with discussion. I would like to start off with a question. Maybe you can answer, Mr. Freeman. So we have a $40,000 purchase order for tires here for motor pool. There's later down in the agenda another $40,000 for parks. I would assume that if they're both $40,000, why are we using 2 different companies, and are they the same amount of tires for each contract?
I can't speak to what Parks is doing. As you know, Parks has its own motor pool. I can only speak to what the general county motor pool is doing. And we are purchasing based on state pricing. And as we call around, Delta Tire has those tires that we use most commonly in stock, and they match that state pricing. So I can't speak to what Parks is doing.
Now, would economies of scale kick in and we'd be able to get a better deal if we purchase tires collectively for both parks and motor pool?
That's what I learned in school.
All right.
So yes.
Are there other questions or discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker?
I just had one on number 1. And I know we discussed this last year, and we discussed it the year before, I'm pretty sure. I see in these other areas, we have different parts suppliers because at different times they have different parts. They also have different pricing on parts throughout the year. You know, I bought enough tires over the years, putting them on cars to understand that prices change. I'm still trying to understand why we don't have another one for tires from someone else.
So again, we are using the state contract pricing on those, and Delta Tire has historically had those tires in stock when we need them.
Mr. Chair, if I may continue.
Continue.
Then why would we go through other parts manufacturers to have several? Because I've been told before that we have several different parts manufacturers because at times they have different parts and they have different prices on their parts, but yet tires don't change like that, which I know not to be true because I bought enough tires over the year, because you're looking at someone that's been in the auto industry for 20-some years, and used cars, you're constantly putting tires on cars. It's just what happens because people don't want bad rubber on their car.
So I didn't say that the prices didn't change. What I said is we're using the state pricing for those tires, and that Delta Tire has those tires that we use in stock at the price that the state bid.
So for parts, we're not using the state pricing?
For parts, auto parts?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? No, we are not.
Do they not have state pricing for auto parts then?
That would be a Derek question, but I don't believe they do have state, they don't have a state bid for those, because if you look like for Brown and
No,
Sons
I
and
understand there'd be
Northwest
bulbs and all
Tire,
this
yeah.
stuff, just trying to understand.
Yep.
From there. I still would like to look into somebody else for tires on this, you know, just as a fact, I always ask that. I still think that'd be a nice option to have them approved so they could shop around, because, you know, it is like anything else, the supply and demand increases in certain areas, and we're running into a shortage of supplies, and it's even in the tire industry right now, because you've got freighters sitting off the coast with supplies on it. I just like to make sure that we, you know, have another option out there where they don't have to come to this board and actually get the tires put on right away, so we don't have vehicles sitting over there, so. You know, and I'd be glad to work with purchasing on that if there's something we need to do, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Ellenberg, and while you're asking your question, can I have Director June come up for some additional questions?
I think we've brought this question up before, why we change, or we use different ones for parks, because some of the tires that you guys use are a little more difficult to get, and you use the company that you use.
So it's
We've
not
used
about,
Delta-
for us, it's not about the tires themselves. We're like motor pool, we buy Goodyear's off-state contract from multiple vendors that offer that. We also buy Firestone from multiple vendors. Our issue is with service. So a lot of our equipment has to be serviced on site. So there's only a couple of vendors in Genesee County that'll come out and change a tire on a wheel loader. And that's why we have those vendors on our list. We will use Delta Tire as well for Firestone tires. So I don't know if that answers
And
your
we've used
question.
Delta before, haven't we? Okay, because I know, you know, they're a local business and, you know, fairly growing, you know, new. So, I mean, I think we used them last year. We cut their purchase order down from last year because it was one big amount. And I think you had brought it up that we should maybe only do half of it, Commissioner,
And we're back to where we were when we started. So
back at 40.
Yeah, and if I can speak to that, last year you did do that, and you told me to go out and look at all of the local vendors who were on the state contract. I did that. Delta Tire was still the lowest one after I did that for you guys. I can provide that spreadsheet from last year, and if you'd like, I can provide you another spreadsheet from this year.
I'd just like to have another vendor because, in my opinion, with the shortages going on, I don't want to see us stuck in a spot where, guess what, we can't get tires and our vehicles are sitting there.
Yeah, so if we run into an emergency situation where, let's say I've got a Tahoe that Delta Tire doesn't have those tires for, that purchase cost wouldn't rise to the level that we would need to come to the Board of Commissioners to get approval for anything.
If I may also, there's a lot of the tires that the motor pool buys and a lot that we buy are also for speed rated tires for the police vehicles, and there's only two vendors that sell those. That's Firestone and Goodyear.
Yep.
So that's a lot of the things that we have
But
to
if you
purchase.
guys would like to maybe amend that amount so that we can continue moving forward with.
I'm fine with the
what's
amount.
going
That
on.
doesn't, that, I don't, like I said,
You want me to get another vendor
I'm just,
as an option?
I'm very concerned with the amount of supplies we're seeing shortages in, that we're gonna get caught, not just with that, but with other vendors, and there's other things we need to look at as a county, I feel, moving forward, that there's gonna be shortages of, and we were gonna wanna maybe even start talking about a stocking, a way of products, having extra tires on hand, having extra products on hand, because I think we're gonna start seeing shortages and things, and that's
Mr.
not just
Chair.
me, that's
think Derek-
most news
Derek-
networks.
Might have something.
Yeah, if I
Go ahead,
could-
Commissioner Ellenberg.
I mean, I've dealt with Delta Tire for quite a while for my own personal use. They've always been there. They have a great service program. And, you know, I feel if you're worried about having on stock, I think if you talk to the owner, he would be more than willing to make sure that that would never happen. And, I mean, I know that they're a good company, and I've dealt with them for quite a few years.
Yeah, if I may, so on the state contract, there are a couple of local vendors as well. If you go on Hill Road, there's two that I know of. And, you know, if we do run into a situation in which we cannot get the vendor to provide specific tires, those other two companies do have state, they were approved by the state as well, and they do have state contracting. So I want to make sure that everyone's assured that if there is, you know, we can go to another vendor. It's just that right now, as relates to providing what they need, Delta currently has it. And that there are a couple of other vendors who were approved on the state contract as well that are in the area. Okay?
I'm not as concerned on which vendor. I'm trusting that our departments are doing their due diligence and finding the best cost, but I would like to see us continue to put an effort of working together and maybe putting in one purchase order for things like tires rather than one for this department, one for that department. I understand there's different sources of funding, but I know there's a way that we can work to make that a singular thing, and if so be, maybe that means moving all of those to be operated under one department. Is
Thank you.
there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we will be taking a vote on items 1 through 6. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries. Item 7 is approval of a change order number 3 to a contract between Genesee County and E&L Construction.
Move it.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries. Section B, Parks and Recreation.
Mr. Chair, being that I sit on the park board and we've actually took this through the park board commission, I would like to move 1 through 15.
Support.
All right, there's a motion to move items 1 through 15. We'll open the floor for conversation. Director June, can you come up again? So can you tell us a little bit more about the document building and the changes you're making to that and how that could potentially fit into the current conversations we're having around other purchase of real property?
So we have a building that we've constructed behind the Parks office that we're going to put, condition the space, and we're going to keep our older records in there. And right now, we have actually records in the furnace room at the park office, and this will enable us to move those records out into a conditioned space and still have them available for us for reference.
All right. Now, has there been any conversation on, rather than creating better space to store physical documents and digitizing them and making them all electronic?
Well, I'm not a big fan of digitization, especially of old, documents related to purchase of properties and things that we have to reference periodically for the state. So, and the cost to digitize those would probably be more than the cost of this building that we're going to build. So that's why we decided to just, and a lot of them are blueprints as well, and blueprints aren't handy for digitization, so that's kind of where we're headed. And plus some police records that need to go out there.
Sure. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we will take a vote on, sorry, what was it 1 through 15?
Yes.
Items 1 through 15. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Is there any other business to be brought before the committee? Seeing none, we stand adjourned at 10:09.